Let us concentrate our attention on Sri Ramakrishna and prepare our mind to receive his teachings. Shanti Hari Om. Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Sthapakaya cha dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Avatar Varishtaya Ramakrishna Te Namah Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityormamritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, Supreme God incarnate. Let us pray to Him to remove all our ignorance. Let us pray to Him for bestowing grace upon us to give fulfillment to our spiritual aspirations. Studying Sri Ramakrishna's teachings is itself spiritual practice. Accepting Sri Ramakrishna indicates that we are determined to move forward in our spiritual life. Sri Ramakrishna's whole life is the life of spirituality. So, whatever Sri Ramakrishna has said, every bit of his saying is remarkably spiritual. It has got immense spiritual power. Sri Ramakrishna, we always look upon God as Jagannatha, Jagatpita, Jagat Bandhu, Jagat Sakha, Father of the universe, Mother of the universe, Friend of the universe. The whole creation is the projection of God. God in the form of the universe, in the form of the created beings. The substance is God Himself. So, Sri Ramakrishna, when he has taken this human form, out of his infinite love towards all the beings, he is very much concerned about the spiritual aspirations of all sections of people. He was more considerate towards people who are living in the world. He was rather more strict towards those spiritual aspirants who had devoted whole time to spiritual practices. Sri Ramakrishna knew very well that householders as such had to pass through lots of difficulties and how to help them to come out of that mess. So Sri Ramakrishna gives practical solutions. We should pay clear attention to those things and follow in the life. So Sri Ramakrishna is telling, it's not somebody who is of no importance telling these things. Sri Ramakrishna, the veritable manifestation of the Supreme Spirit, who himself practiced spirituality and attained the final goal, when he speaks out, he really means what he speaks. It is not simply theoretical assertion. So Sri Ramakrishna is telling to the household disciples, because now and then the doubt comes upon the householders. How it is possible for them to turn to God? Again and again, in so many ways, questions are put to Sri Ramakrishna. So Sri Ramakrishna was very much concerned about their welfare. And that's why during the weekends, lots of household disciples would come there. And Sri Ramakrishna would speak to them whole day, understanding their problems and giving the solutions appropriate to them. So he is telling, it's all right, you are leading a householder life, but you must underline one important thing. That is, you must enter into householder life after attaining knowledge. He explains that further, how it is very important that we should acquire knowledge first. He gives the example, if the milk of the mind is kept in the water of the world, they get mixed up. On the other hand, turn the milk into curd and extract butter from it by churning it in solitude. Then keep the butter in the water of the world. It's a most significant teaching. All the householders must understand the importance of this teaching. If you have understood this, your spiritual life becomes very easy and becomes fruitful. So what he meant by saying this is that spiritual discipline is necessary. It is more necessary for the householders than the monks, because the mind is always downward. It will be extremely difficult if a person doesn't practice spiritual disciplines regularly to maintain the spiritual aspirations in life. Even incarnations, how severe disciplines they performed themselves. Even though their body is pure, their mind is pure, yet they performed disciplines. Sri Ramakrishna tells again and again, whatever may be the circumstances, don't talk about the circumstance. You must engage yourself in spiritual discipline. These are the words of Sri Ramakrishna. Without devoting oneself to the disciplines, one can never make any spiritual progress in life. It's only through spiritual practices we attain knowledge and devotion. They won't come simply. You have to struggle to open the gates of knowledge and devotion. It is through sadhana the heart should be purified and a new realm will open. So, this is the advice given by Sri Ramakrishna to the householders. Never for a moment forget this principle of doing spiritual disciplines. Very important. Spiritual efforts must be carried on till we see light, more light, not simply glimpses, till we attain God, till we gain His vision, till we talk to Him. Sri Ramakrishna is speaking, considering God has definite forms, and from that standpoint of view he is telling, because it's very difficult for the householders to think of God as formless, but then to concentrate on one divine form and to establish definite relationship with the God Supreme, and then all your spiritual aspirations will be fulfilled. So what is needed here is that we must develop that taste. Then everything will be nice. To develop taste. Once the mind tastes sweetness in the thought of God, there is nothing to fear. But we must develop that taste. Swami Brahmanji, one of the foremost disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, one day told the devotees, well, by practicing meditation and japa, you may progress a little, but then comes a period of dryness. It's a very important point, we should all note it. Period of dryness will come. It seems that the doors are entirely closed. At that time, never give up the spiritual disciplines which you have been doing all the time. It is very important and necessary that you stick on to your spiritual practices with infinite patience. By so doing, you will find one day that all of a sudden the doors are opened. What a great joy it is then. Swami Brahmanji says, in spiritual life, many such thresholds have to be crossed. Do you think you can get God simply? You have to prepare yourself properly to receive God. At another time, Brahmanji said, do you think that there is any fixed catalogued price of so much austerity, so much japam, so much charity, etc. for God realization? None can force realization out of him. But if you don't keep up a regular spiritual struggle, you will not be able to hold the experience when it comes. An illustration is given. A man is standing in the courtyard of the house. He wants to go to the roof of the building. There's a staircase, but instead of climbing this structure step by step, he decides to jump with great force. What happens? He is seriously hurt. So it is with spiritual life. One should follow gradual path. Just as there are laws governing the physical world, so are there laws governing the spiritual world also. It is true we can't buy God. His vision comes only through His grace. But then does this mean that we shouldn't practice spiritual disciplines? Certainly we must practice. Why should we keep on practicing spiritual disciplines? Otherwise, passions will create havoc in us. Passions. Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsarya. All these are dreadful passions. So, to get rid of this danger, it is necessary to maintain our spiritual discipline. Spiritual discipline. Without spiritual discipline, no spiritual life. They go together. Spiritual life means spiritual discipline. Spiritual discipline means spiritual life. They go together. So, spiritual discipline means self-effort. It is absolutely necessary to success in spiritual life. Sri Ramakrishna said, you want to eat rice? Suppose you sit down somewhere and say, wood contains fire, fire cooks rice. But just saying that, does it cook the rice? Could you eat it? You must get 2 pieces of wood, and by causing friction, you must bring out the fire. Then the rice must be cooked. Afterwards you have to eat. So all these processes are there. So spiritual practices actually mean a hankering for God alone, a longing for Him alone. By discarding this world, that means you must no more be deluded by this world and worldly things and worldly entanglements. The more you turn towards the world, towards the worldly things, the more mind gets entangled. The more it gets entangled, the more difficult it is for you to purify it. So you must forget all thoughts of name and fame, physical comfort, all sorts of these things, even one's own existence. You should have no anxiety about lives here or hereafter, or about anything else. God will reveal Himself out of His mercy to one who wants Him in such a way. Success does not come in a day. We should go on practicing like this with a simple heart, and everything will come all right. The main thing that matters is to live with God. Are we doing that? To live with God. We live with people, we live with things, we live with our kith and kin, children, anybody, everybody. In what manner we are living with God. So, the important thing is, we must learn to live with God in various ways and forever. How? With the help of japa, with the help of meditation, with the help of prayers, with the help of spiritual thoughts, studying scriptures and discourses about God. All these are various methods to live with God. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the breeze of His grace is always blowing. We should take advantage of it by unfurling the sails. Unfurling the sails is meant self-effort and spiritual discipline. Spiritual discipline will prepare the mind for divine grace. So it is very important. Spiritual discipline, in other words, is nothing but the bringing together of the scattered mind. The next point, very important point, Sri Ramakrishna said, surrender everything at the feet of God. Give Him the power of attorney. Once you do it wholeheartedly, from that moment onwards, be very careful about what you are doing, what you are thinking, what you are speaking, etc. Let the Supreme God do whatever He thinks best. Sri Ramakrishna tells, if you rely on a great man, he will never injure you. So what to speak of God? When you are relying upon God, God will certainly see how you are making progress in spiritual life. So first point he said was spiritual discipline, the importance of spiritual discipline, so that you can develop knowledge, so that you can cultivate devotion to God. With this attitude in the mind, if you are in a household life, doesn't matter. You have become a butter, you are not drowned by the worldliness, you are able to sail through the ocean of worldly life. The second point he said, surrender to Him wholeheartedly. And third point, Sri Ramakrishna tells, there are so many approaches, as Sri Ramakrishna himself has pointed out, as many faiths, so many paths. True. But the most easy way for the people to follow, Sri Ramakrishna is suggesting you develop some kind of relationship with God, master and servant attitude. Consider God as your master and you be as a servant of Him. Why the idea of servant is brought here? Because the main obstruction in spiritual life is our ego. It's a stumbling block That ego cannot be crushed unless you have different attitude. So to humiliate the ego, you must adopt this attitude of being servant of God. Then the ego will not raise its head. And Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of Hanuman. All the time he was thinking about Sri Rama. His whole mind was on Ramachandra. He was ready to carry out whatever the commands of Sri Ram. He developed such tremendous faith, having that attitude. I am the servant of Sri Rama. So just by uttering Master's name, he could cross over the ocean without any bridge. And lastly, Sri Ramakrishna said, unswerving devotion to one ideal is important. Unswerving devotion to one ideal. Fix the ideal, devote it to it. So these are the methods by which Sri Ramakrishna helped the devotees to develop spiritual aptitude and enjoy peace and joy. Page number 371. It was a day of the new moon, auspicious for the worship of the Divine Mother. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Sri Ramakrishna got into a carriage to visit the temple of Kali at Kali Ghat. He intended to stop at Adhar's house on the way, since Adhar was to accompany him to the temple. While the carriage was waiting near the north porch of the master's room, M went to the master and said, "Sir, may I also go with you?" Sri Ramakrishna asked, "Why?" M said, "I should like to visit my home in Calcutta." Sri Ramakrishna reflected a moment and said, "Must you go home? Why? You are quite all right here." M wanted to see his people a few hours, but evidently the master did not approve. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, while M was walking up and down under a tree, a devotee came to him and said that the master had sent for him. M went to Sri Ramakrishna's room and found a number of devotees there. He saluted the master. Ram, Kedar and others had arrived from Calcutta. Ram had brought with him the Vedantist monk whom the master had visited near his garden a few days earlier. On that occasion, Sri Ramakrishna had asked him to bring a sadhu to Dakshineshwar, to bring that sadhu. The monk was sitting on the small couch with the master. They were talking happily in Hindustani. Master asked, "What do you feel about all this?" Monk replied, "It's all like a dream." Master said, "Brahman alone is real and the world illusory." "Well, sir, what is Brahman?" Monk said, "Brahman is a sound. It is Om." Master said, "But there must be something indicated by the sound. Isn't that so?" Monk said, "That itself is the thing indicated as well as the indicator." All at these words, Sri Ramakrishna went into samadhi and sat motionless. The monk and the devotees looked wonderingly at him in his ecstatic condition. Kedar said to the monk, "Look at him, sir. This is samadhi." The monk had read of samadhi but had never seen it before. After a few minutes, the master began gradually to come down to the normal plane of consciousness. He said to the Divine Mother, "Mother, I want to be normal. Please don't make me unconscious. I should like to talk to the sadhu about Sachidananda. Mother, I want to be merry talking about Sachidananda. I want to be merry." The monk was amazed to see the master's condition, and to hear these words, Sri Ramakrishna said to him, please do away with your I am he. Let us now keep I and thou to enjoy the fun. A little later, the master was walking in the Panchavati with Ram, Kedar, M and other devotees. Master said to Kedar with a smile, what did you think of the sadhu? Kedar said, it's all dry knowledge. The pot has just been put on the fire, but as yet there is no rice in it. Master said, that may be true, but he has renounced everything. He who has renounced the world has already made great progress. The sadhu belongs to the stage of the beginner. Nothing can be achieved without the realization of God. When a man is intoxicated with ecstatic love of God, he doesn't take delight in anything else. Then, cherish my precious mother Shyama tenderly within, O mind. May you and I alone behold her, letting no one else intrude. Kedar repeated the words of a song in keeping with Master's feeling. How shall I open my heart, O friend? It is forbidden me to speak. I am about to die for lack of a kindred soul to understand my misery. Sri Ramakrishna returned to his room. About 4 o'clock, the door of the Kali temple was opened, and the master walked to the temple with the monk. M accompanied them. Entering the inner chamber, the master prostrated himself reverently before the image. The monk with folded hands also bowed his head repeatedly before Kali. Master asked him, what do you think of Kali? Monk answered with devotion, Kali is supreme. Master said, Kali and Brahman are identical. Is that not so? Monk said, as long as one's mind is turned to the outer world, one must accept Kali. As long as a man sees the outer world and discriminates between good and evil, he must accept good and reject evil. To be sure, all names and forms are illusory, but as long as the mind sees the outer world, the aspirant must give up woman. The ideas of good and evil are applied to one who is still a student on the path. Otherwise he will stray from the path of righteousness. Thus conversing, the master and the monk returned from the temple. Master said to M, did you notice that the sadhu bowed before Kali? M answered, yes sir. We shall stop here. Yeah. Now your session begins now. Session of the audience. Questions, comments, all welcome. That means how to get rid of aham bhava. In the final analysis, we are resolving to that final goal only. But how to go beyond your ego, that's the problem. So if he is peaceful in that attitude and if he is enjoying the benefit of that, it's all right. But saying is one thing and experience is another. Yeah. You may like to have it. Everybody wants to have. Everybody wants to become the President of America. But the point is, the thinking is one thing, but doing is another. So, but even that very idea is good, to get rid of all our Upanishads, everything, Atma Jnana, Atma Bodha, they all tell to disconnect yourself from the mind. That's what they say. But the final discard is ego. That means that you can discard ego only when you become fearless. You are not afraid of anything. Let anything happen. If you are able to hold on to that attitude and stabilize yourself in that thought, then it's possible for you to enjoy that bliss. But this mind and ego, whatever you may call, all these things are not imposed by somebody else. They are not imposed by external force. They are manufactured by your own self. So because they have come out of your own making, you have to undo them through your own efforts. Doing, undoing are to be done by yourself. Because doing you have done, undoing also should be done by you. That way. So mind and body you have manufactured. That is, you are forced to take this body on account of the momentum of the impressions created in the past lives. But as Sri Ramakrishna has said, there are physical laws governing this world. In the same way, there are spiritual laws also governing the spiritual world. So, that law takes care of the things. So, it's all important. What we say, what we do, they must be coordinated thoroughly. When you say, I am not bothered about ego, you must literally, you must feel, certainly you are not bothered about it. So, having that attitude and trying to live that life, you will be able to slowly undo the things, loosen the grip of the ego. But that ego has to be overcome. It has to go. You should not have any kind of self-importance. I may talk, I should do, I am a sakshi, etc., etc. But if somebody comes and talks irrelevant or argues too much, he becomes angry. Finished. That means his assertion is only theoretical knowledge. If you are really a practical man, he will never be upset by any kind of argument, by any heated discussion, etc. He is not bothered. Why he is upset? Because his ego is hurt. So how, in a subtle way, ego is functioning in him. That's why they always say, spiritual life must be intensely practiced in solitude, where you are not coming in association with anybody and you are wholly concentrating on your own true self, and by that, in that process, you are able to achieve a breakthrough. Once you have that experience of what you are, what that sakshi means, that experience you can have only when you reach the samadhi state. Until then, it's all theoretical knowledge. So to reach that samadhi state, you have to do spiritual practices in the atmosphere of the solitude. So that way, anyway, you could concentrate well and distractions are less. That makes the way easy to conquer the ego. Conquering the ego is the important thing. He conquers well who conquers himself. That's what I know. That's true. Sakshi Baba, Sri Ramakrishna would go into samadhi by hearing any God's name, what to speak of Om. So when that monk is referring Om as Brahman himself, that was enough for him to go into ecstasy. That's all. So, because his mind was so much attuned to the highest reality, even the slightest suggestion was enough for him to get into that spiritual mood. Even if somebody on the street calls Rama, if he just hears that name, he would go into ecstasy. This was the mental status of Sri Ramakrishna. But what Sri Ramakrishna is telling further is that when you come to the relative sense, when you become aware of this creation, world, etc., etc., then you have to accept the form of Divine Mother. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna is trying to impress on the sadhu. So that's why he was telling to Yam, did you observe that monk was offering his salutations to Divine Mother? That means he accepted what Sri Ramakrishna has said. So as long as we are in this world, we should look upon this world itself as a manifestation of God. That way, it's easy for you to carry on your things in this world. To negate the world is not so easy unless the mind is free from all types of vrittis. As long as the vrittis are there in the mind, it's difficult to get rid of this idea. It's difficult to believe that world is unreal, though it is unreal. Unreal in one sense, real in another sense. Real in the worldly sense, unreal in the absolute sense. World is unreal from the absolute standpoint. World is real from the relative standpoint. That's all. So how you look at it, accordingly you will be experiencing the truth. That's why Shankaracharya says Vyavaharika Satya. This relative truth, what we are seeing in this world, and what we are doing, all these things. No questions. Good. All questions are answered. If somebody says, I have no question, that means all questions are answered. No. Anymore? No, bhakti is a different approach, that's all. If you don't have that approach, it's all right with you. But not that everybody should have the same kind of approach. People of emotional temperament, for them bhakti is prescribed generally, because it's easy for them to practice truth by following the path of devotion rather than going through the process of intellect. So it depends upon the nature of each one's mind, temperament, suitability. But hankering after God, there Sri Ramakrishna means, God means the absolute reality, whether with form or without form, whatever it is. Hankering means the mind should not aspire anything else other than that. That's the meaning of hankering. That means you are showing the intensity that I have not been able to experience that divine truth, so you are too much after that. So that is to signify the intensity, the word hankering is used. So how people hanker after money, after so many things in this world. So using the same tool, turn towards God, let the hankering be turned to God, you will get Him. That's the way. So that's the point here. How to develop that hankering? As long as the mind is preoccupied with the worldly things, worldly desires, you will never develop the taste. Without developing the taste, you can't have the hankering of God. The point is, after coming in contact with Sri Ramakrishna, Vivekananda literature, this one point is very clear. All the paths have got their own difficulties. No path is easy. And there is no point in developing complexes, inferiority complex, superiority complex. Why the bhakta should feel that he is inferior to a jnani? Why the jnani should feel he is superior to bhakta? All these are, they only show that we are short of experience, we are short of realization. Once you get that final experience, knowledge and devotion, they mingle there. It is sangam. A man who has got that highest realization, he is supremely peaceful and graceful. For example, you take Ramana Maharshi himself, a jnani, jnana purush. But how he was kind. He was very kind to everybody. He was kind to the animals. They would come and sit on his lap, and he would go and inquire about the cows in his place. One cow was not doing well, and he was inquiring. Just take human beings, if they fall sick, we go and inquire every time. Every now and then he was inquiring, what is the condition, how is it faring, like that. So that is the thing. These are all arguments given by the people who have not gone to the highest. But if you talk of spirituality, first of all, we must concentrate upon our path, not distracting our mind for something else. We have no time to compare notes or to see which is superior, which is like that. Our immediate task is how to reach goal. First let me reach the goal, then if I have got time, then I shall come and talk. So that spirit. The final analysis, jnana, bhakti, they are all same. And for example, take Vivekananda. It is he who has synthesized all the 4 yogas. Where do you find such a personality? Jnana, bhakti, karma. Even there are people who condemn karma. For example, who follow Shankara school, Advaita, they say karma is nothing. Karma never leads you to realization. Karma only leads you towards purification of the mind. There it stops. Thereafterwards it is the function of the something else, not karma. Like that they all talk. But it is Vivekananda who coordinated all these 4 yogas, and in his personality himself you can see how all these 4 yogas are well blossomed. It is he who gave that logo. It is there with serpent and sun and swan, and there is a combination of all the 4 yogas. So a student of Ramakrishna Vivekananda must develop that attitude. All are same. Have reverence towards everyone. Reverence. That's the point. Reverence. Each one is great. Swami Vivekananda himself has said in his lecture on Karma Yoga, each one is great in his own place. How nice it is. So, nobody need be discarded, And at the same time, if you enter into argument, there is no end to that. There is no end. It's a lower level. In the highest level, argument stops, argument dissolves. The point where Jnani reaches, the same point Bhakta also reaches. The same point the man who meditates also reaches. The same point who works selflessly also reaches. Same point is reached. Once the point is reached, it is immaterial whether you have come through jnana or whether you have come through bhakti. Experience is what is needed. Then he loves the whole thing. He doesn't separate himself from anything. Sarvam khalvidam brahma. What the jnani says, everything is Brahman. When everything is Brahman, how can he discard anybody? Destiny. Any more? And we shall conclude. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quenched that mighty forest fire, worldly lust, raging furiously within. O name, stream down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, drowned deep in the waves of His bliss, tasting His nectar at every step, bathing in His name, that bath for weary souls. Various are thy names, O Lord, in each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and Soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust or the toys of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for Thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is Thy servant, O Sweet One. In Thy mercy consider him as dust beneath Thy feet. Oh, how I long for the day when an instant's separation from Thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without Thee is a heartless swine. Prostrate at Thy feet let me be, in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of Thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of Thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O Thou, who stealest the hearts of Thy devotees, do with me what Thou wilt, for Thou art my heart's beloved, Thou and Thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere. May all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous attain tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may the freed make others free. May good betide all people, may the sovereign righteously rule the earth, may all beings ever attain what is good, may the worlds be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time, may the earth be blessed with crops, may all countries be freed from calamity, may holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied. For He being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.